Hi, I'm Erin from the Subject of Plants, and with me is Regan from Our Joyful Homestead. Hi, Regan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. It's so good to talk to you.
Yes, you
Yeah.
too.
Regan and I live up in Northern Illinois. We're Zone 5. I think we're like 4 miles apart.
Yes,
Our
not far,
town.
but I think the difference between 5A and 5B is between us.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yes,
Yeah. So,
so
but
weird.
pretty similar growing zone. And I think we're pretty lucky here with like our soil is pretty good.
It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. Compared to what a lot of other people are working with. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, I want to jump in with some questions. First I want to start with
Sure.
your name. Your name online is
Yeah, so
Our Joyful Homestead. So can you explain
yeah,
how you came up with that?
my Instagram handle, Our Joyful Homestead. Well, I kind of picked that um one because I'm a optimist, probably almost to a fault. And I really want to share just little snippets of things that make me happy on Instagram. That's what I like to share. And as far as like the homestead part goes, for me, I don't really consider a homestead only to be like 500 rolling acres
Sure.
with tons of livestock, and
Yeah.
definitely that's a homestead. But um, for my terms, it's more so the little things that you're doing to be more self-sufficient and
Okay.
sustaining, um, whether that comes to food or really any facet of your home.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from.
So a homestead can be any size then. It can be
Yes, you can
postage size
homestead
or yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
on your patio, in an apartment, in the suburbs. You can have a homestead anywhere,
Okay.
from my perspective.
Yeah. And do you know about how much space you have at your place or land wise or garden wise or?
So here in my house, I don't know the square footage. My husband would
Yeah.
know the square footage, but here at my house, I have a plot where I just keep part of my garden, and then I actually am able to have the majority of my garden on our family farm, which
Oh,
is about 10 minutes from here.
okay.
So it is not ideal. I would love to have everything here right out my back door, but it works and it's what I have. So
I
I'm
think
thankful for
I
it.
think that's interesting though, because sometimes maybe people could think of an alternative spot, a space that maybe they don't personally own, but that nobody's really doing anything with. So that's kind of an interesting idea. I know it's a family spot, but maybe that's
Yeah,
an idea other people could try out too.
right, for sure. Because like even if you do have a little bit of yard, it's not always in a set up on an open space on the south side where you have enough sun or something like that. So things can get a little complicated, I know, when you don't have access to a lot of space. But asking around,
Yeah.
especially like family and friends, like people are more than willing, usually if you were to keep something tidy, not crazy jungle land, but
Right.
keep something tidy, they are more than willing to say like, yeah, go ahead and grow whatever you want.
Yeah.
So,
That's a great tip, I think, for people looking for space. I was going to
for
ask,
sure.
what are some of the staples in your garden? Some of the things you always do, either whether it's plants or timing or techniques, and then after that, maybe what's something new that you're getting into?
Yeah, so plant wise, like I really plant the same things every year, and it is quite a list. My main things I like to grow are things um, that I like to grow a lot of would be like tomatoes, potatoes, like garlic and onions, um, like squashes and beans and things like that really I can either preserve or enjoy a lot of. And then I kind of like dabble in other things. And then as far as like the garden space, I mainly garden in the ground. I don't do a lot of raised beds, not against it, but like you said, we have some of the best soil ever. And I've just been kind of used to just gardening right in the
Mhm.
in the ground in the yard. So And then I'm sorry, what was the last thing?
Oh, yeah, it was just stuff that you always do, and then maybe something new that you're trying out or that you're interested in trying out.
So last year, something new that I started was weed barrier fabric. And I read a lot about it. With the size of garden that I have, weeding was a full-time job.
Sure.
Like using organic methods in the garden. I don't technically have an organic garden. I mean, there's like a lot of certifications and technicalities to say like I have an organic garden. But I use organic and natural practices. So in order for that to work, you just have a lot of weeds. And so the weed fabric was something new. It worked amazingly last year. I'm so excited to try it again this year. Last year I had a newborn though, so I'm a little foggy about last spring. So that is going to feel new to me all over again this year.
Right. You actually get to explore the benefits a bit more. Yeah.
Kind of dig in a little deeper.
I was going to say, the weeds thing is, I always say, as long as the plants that you want are bigger than the weeds you don't want, then you're
then you're in good shape. You can never find them in there.
You're going to get rid of the weeds completely. I wanted to talk about your background in floral design, which I think is so cool. The trends with cut flowers is just taking off. And I know you're part of the Growing Kindness Project. And so I just wanted to know a little bit more about your floral design background, how that informs your choices, if your designs have kind of changed over the years, if you want to let us know a little bit about that.
So I went to college for horticulture, majoring in floral design, and I was a wedding florist for almost 8 years.
Can I just say that seems like the most stressful job? I know there's more stressful jobs out there, but it seems so stressful to have this tender product on somebody's most important day.
And like in school, like I didn't grasp that, but as soon as I started my own business, I was like, holy moly, like this is like legit terrifying, but awesome at the same time. But like you said, the biggest challenge was the product that does actually die, that you have to maintain until a wedding day. So it was amazing though. I loved it. So went to school, had my own business for a while. We kind of slowed that down, pulled that in. I wanted to just kind of change gears. We got to the point in my business where it was either like, we really need to expand because I needed more help, or we need to kind of reel it back in. And I just felt called to reel it in a little bit. I did some freelancing, and that's just kind of where we are at right now with that. With my background in floral design, I still love flowers. I love flowers so much. They will always, I think, be part of my garden. And I've always wanted a designated space for like a cut flower garden, which someday maybe I'll have, just like, sprawling rows of flowers. But just for right now, what that looks like, growing food really is my passion, and food and flowers go really well together. Don't think you have to do one or the other. I was kind of in that mindset at first, but what that looks like now for me is I incorporate flowers with my food everywhere, so they're planted next to each other. I've got flowers around the perimeter of my vegetables, cut flowers sprinkled all throughout my landscape. Pretty much wherever there's some open dirt, I will throw in some flowers.
I can relate. Yes.
So that's been fun. The Growing Kindness Project is amazing. And that has been a really fun way to open up others to cut flowers and kind of share that love a little bit. And they will definitely always have a place in my garden. And that was probably a good lesson for me to learn. Like I said, at first I was so focused on food, like, I want to grow my own food, just food. My garden doesn't have to be pretty, more like utilitarian. And then like, there's so many benefits to keeping flowers with your veggies, pollinators, and just the whole ecosystem works well together. So
I think just having a space that you really like to go into helps too. Cause I noticed like in my yard, And at the community garden stuff, when a space is not looking nice, I kind of like, oh, I don't even want to go over there. I don't want to work there, you know, and
Yeah.
it's like, but if it's pretty and something kind of draws you in and you like being there, then, you know, you want to go see it every day and check on it. And
Yes,
so I know
absolutely.
despite the environment, you know, in addition to the environmental benefits, it really isn't, I think there's something to be said for making a space that you enjoy being in too, you know? Yeah.
Yes, I remember like looking out my bedroom window every day is where I can see my tomatoes.
Mhm.
And like the zinnias last year were just like that pop of color. You know, you weren't looking at the tomatoes, you were looking at the pink flowers. Like,
Right,
so
right.
yeah, I can totally get that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was going to talk about the special gentleman in your life. You have a very supportive husband, Adam, and
I
a
do.
son who is almost a year old. And I saw today on your stories that he's starting to try to walk a bit, which will be very interesting.
It is. I'm not ready.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
like, I'm already tired. Like,
Yeah.
so
No,
he's
you
gonna
spend
run
like
away from
6
me.
months just like, oh, walking behind him. Yeah.
I
But
know.
yeah,
Thankfully, he's gotten his balance a little bit more, so we're not taking as many tumbles.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm sure. But
So
yes.
if you would be willing to share what it's like, what it was like last year being a new mom and trying to do all the gardening that you like to do, what you're anticipating this year with a
Yeah.
toddler, and you know, what, you know, how your husband plays into that, being supportive of what you're doing. Does he jump in on projects? Does he watch the baby, or, you know, how does that work for you guys?
So last year that looked a lot like he watched the baby.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of got like the garden was definitely more of an area, more than ever last year, of just like peace and just like tranquility and just like kind of go out there and chill for a little bit, just like get some headspace.
Yeah.
But yes, I have a super amazing supportive husband. He will not only go along with some of my crazy projects and ideas. I feel like gardening is like all about new projects and different things all the time.
Mhm.
And instead of squashing those projects and ideas, he usually just like nods and says, "How can I help?" And we kind of go from there. But
Yeah.
that's amazing, especially when it comes to like any sort of like extra manual labor. I can just be
Mhm.
like, "You just got to go get that." And he usually will. He usually will. But last year, a garden with a newborn, I got everything planted in my garden 2 days
He was
before
born.
Asa was born.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was born in May, right? And or was
Yes,
it
he
May?
was born May 24th.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I knew that I still wanted to have a garden, just because I knew like it's my happy thing, you know. I didn't want to just like cut it all off and not have it at all.
Sure.
And I knew if I could get it all planted, the maintenance of it should be okay, and things really wouldn't pick up again until harvest.
Mhm.
And so that rang pretty true. It got neglected, which for me was totally fine.
Yeah.
I thought to myself a lot of times, I can garden for the rest of my life, but he's going to be a newborn one time.
Sure.
So it was more casual last year, and that's totally fine with me. And as far as this year, I'm looking forward to it being a place for him to just like explore and discover. And I will probably always still have it be my happy space, you know, but
Yeah.
I am really excited for him to kind of like create some memories out there with me and eat a lot of dirt.
Yes.
And I think this year will be, I'm kind of setting my sights on everything taking a little bit more time, you know, with how active he's going to be. And
Yeah.
but that's okay too. So we'll be learning together that way.
Can I suggest that you have a specific area that you just keep dirt and like don't plant? And
Just for a big dirt hole.
shovels. Yeah. Just always be that you go over there, you go over there. Yeah.
You have 3 boys. I will absolutely take your advice.
Yes. We always have some place where they won't bother anything, or it's weeds, or it's something, if they dig it up, I don't care. Or the digging, they just want to dig and dig and dig. So, but yeah. Well, I think that is something that I know has factored into my life a lot, and probably for a lot of moms is, having that respite in the garden. I know even, after birth, and I recently had surgery and stuff like that, it's like pulls you out there. It gives you a reason to kind of get out and walk around. And if you're in those newborn days where it's just so stressful, if you have that place to go.
Foggy, yes. And everything's new. And you just kind of have some things you are familiar with.
Right. But it moves down the priority list a bit. But then, now my youngest is 4, and he's a little bit more able to handle himself in the yard. So now I can do a little bit more outside, but it's, it ebbs and flows with the seasons. But
so I have a question for you. Do you incorporate the boys into everything, or do you guys kind of have your own separate areas? Something I've struggled with in the past, legitimately, like I want to show the next generation how to garden. I feel like even in my generation, it's not as common. Picking up. I think it's picking up, but the next generation how to garden and get out there. But I also am kind of a control freak, and so it was like really hard for me a lot of times to like have my neighbor kids over and let them harvest and things like that.
Oh yeah.
And I kept myself back a few times and let them do their thing. But do you kind of like give them free reign? Do you kind of like guide them? Do they have their own separate area? What do you do for them?
They don't have their own separate area. It's a learning curve. Well, it's like how you teach them how to be safe in the house. It's how you teach them what's okay and what's off limits in the house. It's similar in the garden. There's some stuff they can tear leaves off. And I know my youngest, or when they were younger, my older 2 got really into taking off their own herb leaves and eating them. But you got to teach them which ones they can and can't. You're going to lose flowers. Some things are going to be stepped on. If something's really important, put like, chicken wire or something, or, but I found that the best thing to do is just to make it just a really regular part of life,
Okay.
Just like how you read a book at night, or whatever. It's just, this is something we do in our family. We garden, even in the winter, we have plants we grow, we talk about the garden. It's not like a special activity in any way.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. It's just, we do this and they learn over time and they find different things they're interested in. Like Owen, our middle son, loves making bouquets, which I had never made bouquets before. Yeah, he's really into it, which he got me into it. I had never done that before. And my youngest likes to dig still pretty much, or like walk around on bricks or wood or whatever the structures are. My oldest has like one plant that he really, really likes, and he tells everybody about it, so it's like that, it's just, they're going to find their own things they like about it and make it just a part of everyday life, and then teach them what's okay. And, there's rules in the garden, and are they going to get it right away at a year old? No, but just like in the house, it's like, okay, you can't pull the drapes down and you can't knock the vase off, you got to teach them. So, but it's fun.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, I've had 10 years to figure it out. It didn't always go like that. So, okay. And so I was going to ask you about your preserving skills, because I admire them. We froze a couple things this year. That's as far as we got, but you really,
that's great though.
Yeah, you really do quite a bit. And I'm assuming that's part of the homestead sort of goal, is to have a lot of food preserved. So if you could maybe talk about your journey to doing that, maybe something for beginners, maybe if you could share some things that have failed so we can all feel better about our skills.
Trust me. Yes, there's plenty. So when I first started gardening, I was really into the like preserving your own food thing. That just like appealed to me. I was really drawn to it. And I remember, like I think a lot of us, our grandparents did it
Mhm.
out of necessity, not just for fun. They had to. And so I grew some cucumbers and to my grandma, I was like, I want to make pickles. And she was like, oh, okay, I'll show you how to make pickles. Not her favorite thing to do, but I'm all pumped about making pickles,
Yeah, yeah.
And so she showed me how, and I was like, totally like the bug got me. I was like,
Mhm.
I want to grow everything and I want to preserve everything that I can. And canning is probably one of my favorite things to do as far as food preservation. It is really, really satisfying, I think is why. Because
Yeah.
you see your jars lined up on the shelf and it's
Mhm.
just like this wonderful feeling. I feel like it's like wired into us
Yeah,
almost
yeah,
to like
yeah.
want that food hoard.
Sure,
And
that makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
and so I started off water bath canning,
Okay.
um, which you water bath can anything that is high acidity, like your fruits and your tomatoes and your pickles and the vinegar, and I have recently started pressure canning. Pressure canning was a foreign thing to me. Not familiar with it. Don't have anybody show me how to do it. It was kind of one of those things I learned on my, and that's still and other than that, I do a lot of freezing too. Last year I did a ton of freezing just because canning is kind of time consuming. And also as far as like herbs and things and like peppers, drying is an awesome option.
Okay.
So don't feel like you're kind of stuck to one method there. But as far as canning goes, I think a lot of people don't get into it out of like fear,
Mhm.
and maybe a little bit of like that analysis paralysis,
Mhm.
where there seems to be so much information that you just don't make the jump.
Yeah. Do you think,
But
do you think it's better to try it and maybe get it wrong and then figure out from there, or?
yes, because you're gonna mess up a few times. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah.
It's a brand new skill you're learning. Like, don't
Sure.
expect to be like amazing right out the gate. But with canning, the most important thing is food safety, right?
Mhm.
And so we don't want to be guessing about things, or it's not like cooking, your grandma's recipe with a pinch of this and a pinch of that.
Sure, sure.
Canning is very specific. You need to follow detailed instructions, but really, if you can read a recipe and just follow it, you will have no problem canning.
Okay.
The Blue Book of Canning is all that I use. And it actually explains the whole process for a beginner very clearly. And then it's filled also with like an abundance of recipes, like anything you could possibly want to can, you'll
And
find
I'm
there.
assuming they're very tried and true. These work for
Absolutely.
sure. Yeah.
They're tested. And that's just really important for the food safety
Mhm.
standpoint. Don't be scared. You're not going to give your family botulism, but as long as you're not like, I don't ever Google a canning recipe. I don't take a canning recipe from a cookbook, like a
Mhm.
random church cookbook. I follow those ball tested recipes just because I'm a stickler about it.
Sure.
And they really have everything you could know. But I think testing, to ensure the safety is the biggest deal for me. And like I said, it's not hard. You just, when it comes to canning, you don't want to, if they say one onion, you don't put in 3 onions because you have them. It really changes the acidity levels, and there's a whole dance to keep it what it should be for your food.
Okay.
But yeah, it's really fun and it's really satisfying. And when you can for the first time and you take your jars out of the water and you set them on the counter and you'll hear the lids start to ping and they'll just pop, and that means they're sealing. That is like the best sound in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
So for a new person new to preserving, don't be intimidated. Just get the right things and follow the rules.
Can you
Would
share,
be my best advice.
can you share one of your fails with us so we can all feel a little better?
Yes. So I had this wonderful idea that I was going to can potatoes. And this was when I was first learning my pressure canner, because potatoes are low acid. So I literally had all of these little potatoes, right? My potatoes didn't get very big that year. And I was like, that's fine. So I think I probably peeled potatoes for like 8 hours trying to get all these little potatoes peeled, because I was going to do a big batch, right?
Yeah,
I wasn't going to do 2 jars of potatoes. We needed potatoes, right? So I peeled potatoes for hours. Yeah. And by the end of this, I was like, what on earth am I even thinking? And then so I get the pressure canner set up and it's going, and I have no idea what anything means. I'm trying to follow the recipe, and I'm trying to watch the gauge and the right amount of steam. And I'm just like, this is because I feel pressure canning is a little bit more complex than water bath. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to like get this right, and I finally got it, and it's like 11 o'clock at night, and I get my potatoes out of the thing and the canner, and I did something wrong, because they had siphoned and all of the juice, the water was out. There were just dry potatoes in there. And the lid's sealed and everything, but clearly those were not going to be consumable with no liquid. And so I think I put them right out in the garage, and I just told Dad, I was like, do something with them. I don't want to look at them. I don't want to see them.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was really fun.
I feel awful for you, but it does make me feel a little better about trying something. And if it fails, it's okay. Yeah.
It's totally okay. And you'll recover. And the next time you'll be just as excited about it, and it'll go fine.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's good. That's encouraging for sure. Speaking of encouraging people, you have a great series on IGTV for beginning gardeners. So if you guys haven't seen her series on IGTV, check it out. Now, I think we've talked about this a bit, but hearing people say, oh, I don't have a green thumb, I have a black thumb, I kill everything. What are some things that, how can they start to gain more confidence in the garden? People that think, oh, they can't grow anything.
Well, I would first tell you to quit telling yourself those lies, because there is no such thing as a black thumb. Like, sorry to burst your bubble. It doesn't exist. Like, really, truly, anybody can grow food. Like, it's not this, I think we get too into the pass or fail mentality, and we need to get rid of that. Gardening is a process that you are refining season after season. But I totally get you want some instant gratification, right? Like, you're working hard, you're putting a lot of effort into this, you read about it, you want something to work, you want something to grow, right? I totally get that. And my best advice would be to do a little research, but don't research it to death. Also, maybe see if you can connect with someone local to you who is a more experienced gardener. We have community gardens all over. I mean, I think a lot more places do now than they did 10 years ago. Oh, yeah. So that would be a great place to start, even if you just go to a greenhouse and talk to somebody and just, kind of ask a little advice if you're stuck on something.
Because plant people never want to talk about plants. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, disclaimer, you're getting yourself into a rabbit hole here if you're going to ask a plant person about plants. But it'll be worth it if you just stick around.
Like, don't be afraid to ask a plant person to talk about plants. Yeah.
They're not going to be mad, I promise. So reach out and try to find somebody who's done it before, because that's going to be a great resource for you no matter what. They're familiar with your growing area, they're familiar with what to do, and can give you ideas of things to try. But my favorite 3 plants to get started with this, like it's gonna work, would be radishes and green beans and zucchini. I feel like they're so prolific, so easy. They really don't take a lot of effort or trial. They want to grow, so start with those and just like pop them in the ground and see what happens, because I think you'll be really excited.
I agree. Yeah, especially with with all three, but especially with the zucchini, like people just get so amazed by what zucchinis can do, and you just have to put a seed in the ground and you don't have to do anything else. And those are really rewarding. Yeah.
So you can go from, not being super confident about your growing skills to literally being the zucchini lady, passing out zucchini to every neighbor.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Well, that was all the like formal questions I had for you, but I was just wondering, what are you currently, so we're at the second week of March here. What are you currently doing? Are you going nuts with seeds yet, or
I am just beginning? I think I've got the most of my planning done. I tried to get that ahead, a little ahead on that. As far as seed starting goes, I'm starting this week with tomatoes and peppers. And those are my two main things that I start indoors. And I'm getting going with them now. It's been a balance, some years I start them too early, some years I start too late. The goal is to not have teeny tiny tomato starts or big tree tomato starts.
I'm guilty of the trees. Yeah.
I held off probably 2 weeks longer than I wanted to, but it'll be okay, I think. So I'm excited to get those started. I got my little grow light set up downstairs and that system all ready to roll for whenever they get going. So
I'm trying to hold off on I started peppers early because we're going to try to do a plant sale. So I wanted to top them a few times so they get a little bushier. But the tomatoes, I've just, had way overgrown tomatoes every year. So I'm trying to start later this year.
I know. And we get to that, like, I think May 3rd is our first or our last frost. And I'm always like, now we can plant, but then really it's like May 15th, weather-wise. And then our tomatoes just keep getting bigger and bigger.
So, well, that's good. Well, it's we probably both have to get back to the kids and the husbands and all that for the evening, but it was so nice talking to you. And
oh my gosh, I loved it.
Maybe we can actually get together this summer at some point. I know we didn't get to last summer because of COVID, but it'd be great to see you and check out your garden and all that. So
I would love that. Yes. And I would love to come see the community garden too.
Yes. Yeah. It's changed quite a bit. I think you were there in 2019 maybe. And we didn't tell people how we met, which is a fantastic story.
It is. It really is. Yes, go.
It's a very silly one, but there was in Regan small town, there was a play, and it was a very ridiculous play, fun, but it was like a very ridiculous play. And my son was in it. So Regan was one of the characters and my son was one of the characters. So I was going to
I got conned into it.
And you played, what was the actress you played? Goldie Hawn.
Goldie Hawn, yes.
It was so good. You did a good job though. Yeah.
I was totally conned into that play. I'm not a play person, but I am now. So.
You did good. Yeah. And so then that's how we met at a backstage at a play in a small town.
Yes. Oh, it was awesome.
Well, thank you so much for chatting tonight, and we'll talk soon, hopefully.
Yes.
And check in and all that.
Yes, sounds great. Thanks, Erin.
Okay, bye-bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.